This program is presented by Smart Bazaar.
Press came to Goa. Goa is the first place in the country to have a printing press, and this arrived from Heidelberg in 1556. And one of the first books, see, I have created some works because Ocean is also a creator of text. So this is the text, the letterpress has zinc letters. The first book published in Goa, one of the first books, was called Krista Puran, and it was published in Marathi. Now, it's very, very interesting. Father Stephens, who wrote Krishna Puran, has written Marathi language, which is so beautiful, it can be only compared to somebody like Jnaneshwar. Because he came, he studied Jnaneshwari, and since the local people, the language of religion was Marathi, they decided to write the story of Christ in Marathi. But then the letterpress which came, the Heidelberg press came, had only the Roman script as the typeset. So Marathi was written in Roman script. And today we have a lot of controversy about what should be the script. But the first book to be actually printed in Marathi was with Roman script. And this book is called Krista Puran. And for those of you who understand Marathi, I will just recite the first stanza of this book, which is a stanza in praise of the Marathi language. And if you listen to this, you know that this is as good as Jnaneshwar. So one of the authors, Prudent, has written about how there's a contribution of the Europeans to the Marathi literature. Now, this poem goes something like this, and this is in praise of Marathi. It says, Jaisi Pushpa Maji Pushpa Mogari, Jaisi Pushpa Maji Pushpa Mogari, Parimala Maji Kasturi, Vaisi Bhasha Maji Sazari, Bhasha Marathiya. Those who understand Marathi will understand how beautiful this is. I have done some works based on Krista Puran. I think I will just not go into details of Maratha and the Portuguese relationship. They had a good and bad relationship. They were ambassadors of the Portuguese in Shivaji's court, and Shivaji's emissaries used to come and meet the Portuguese. Shivaji did attack Bardez once, but that was when Bardez was under the Portuguese, but that was because some people who had revolted against Shivaji had taken asylum in Bardez, which was under the Portuguese. So I will not go into details of this, but I must tell you a very, very beautiful story. In 1980, Antule was the chief minister of Maharashtra. And Antule was the first Muslim chief minister of Maharashtra, and he decided to do something for Shivaji. And there was a sword of Shivaji in the British Museum. So he decided he will negotiate and get that sword back and have a grand ceremony. And he thought that was the Bhwani Talwar, the sword given to Shivaji by the goddess Bhwani. So the negotiation succeeded, and the sword was brought, and a big function was planned in Mumbai. That's because this is a sort of kind of iconic thing to do, get the sword of Shivaji. And when the sword was bought, Mr. Anant Shanai Dhume of Goa, who was a historian, was invited to examine the sword. He examined the sword, and what was written on the sword? This is what was written. Conde Tavaris Ofference Shivaji Espada. And see the spelling of Shivaji. Xyvajy. Count Tavaris offers the sword to Shivaji. So it was a sword offered by the Portuguese to Shivaji. Yeah. I will talk about how Goa changed what India is. This is a very interesting part. You heard part of it in my the video which you saw. Now, everything from Brazil came to Goa, and everything from Goa went to Brazil. And why did this happen? What was the connection with Brazil? You must realize that in 1510, steam engine was not discovered. The ships which came from Lisbon had to depend on the wind and the currents. So from Lisbon, you could not just come down along the coast of Africa to the Cape of Good Hope. You had to go to the west and then go almost to the south and then climb up to the Cape of Good Hope. So during one such voyage in 1500, Portuguese captain called Cabral touched Brazil, because Brazil is like a pregnant America protruding into the Atlantic Ocean. And so the ship touched Brazil, And then Brazil became a stopover for every voyage from Lisbon to Goa, and everything from Brazil came to Goa, and everything from Goa went to Brazil. So whatever the Brazilians eat today, a lot of things have gone from the west coast of India. The mangoes in Brazil are from here, the spices are from here, and a lot of things we eat are from Brazil. And chilies, of course, you heard, but I must tell you some very interesting facets of chilies. Chilies arrived here, and they took over the whole country. But it took quite some time. Goa, Maharashtra, the west coast of India, chilies became so popular. They were more popular than than pepper, which we used to use earlier. There is no mention of chilies anywhere in India. Vedas don't mention chili. Kautilya's Arthashastra does not mention chilies. It was written in 250 BC. Then the next book is Aine Akbari. Aine Akbari mentions a lot of food which was cooked in Akbar's kitchen, but all with pepper and the rest of the spices, not with chilies. The first mention of chili in Indian literature is in a poem by Purandar Das, who was a saint poet of Karnataka. Now, Purandar Das writes a beautiful poem. He says, "O chili, I have seen you become red from green. You have made my food so tasty and delicious. When I eat you, I even forget to utter the name of Vitthala." That is a kind of praise Purandar Das showers on chilies. And I think, there is a talk about a Ghar Wapasi program. But I must tell you that no Indian will be ready to give up chilies. So before Ghar Wapasi program, there should be food Wapasi program. So it cannot happen because chilies have just taken over. It was perhaps the most important commodity which is coming from one country to the other and taken over. And chilies reached North India in 1760. And why did the chilies reach North India so late? That's because the chilies went with the Marathas. The Holkars and the Sindhyas, when they went to conquer the fight with the Mughals, they carried chilies. And that's how chilies reached North America. And one historian has a very interesting observation. He says the Marathas could defeat the Mughals because in the blood of the Marathas, there was chili juice. And in the blood of the Mughals, there was badam and pista. Yeah, this is chili's story. The cashew was brought by the Portuguese. And cashew feni is what they taught us how to make. This is cashew feni making. This is a cashew bhatti. Now you get good hurrag these days. This is tobacco, which was brought from Brazil. Tobacco, chilies, and feni. All these three things have come from the Portuguese from Brazil. And we have this Vetal. And we have a lot of village deities in Goa. And what do the people offer to these deities? We offer tobacco, bidi, feni, and chili. So before the Portuguese came, the poor Vetal must be starving. And then this technology of getting rid of evil eye came only with the Portuguese. Before that, this technology did not exist. Papaya came with them, potatoes, chiku. The chiku, again, is from Brazil. And if you cut a chiku, there is a sap, white sap comes out, and you boil it with sugar. That was the world's first chewing gum. That is the reason perhaps the biggest chewing gum company is called Chiclets. Sweet potatoes, tomatoes. Tomatoes were not eaten by Hindus because they thought that it is like flesh. Peanuts, maize. If you tell a Punjabi that makhi ki roti tumhari nahi hai, thappad marega. But maize came from Brazil, from Portugal. And the maize also became very popular in Africa. And the most popular dish in Africa is called posho, which is made with maize. This is chicken kafrial. You know how the chicken kafrial is a nice story. There were a lot of Africans working for the Portuguese, and they cooked chicken with spices, which the Portuguese liked very much. The officer liked it very much, and he called it kafrial. And why kafrial? Because the blacks were called kafirs. And in Goa, still, the word uses kapri. So kafir was the word. So from kafir came kafrial. Bibinka was created in the in old Goa, in the convent. Sabudana is eaten by all Hindus as a food for upwas, for the food religiously. And sabudana is made out of tapioca, which comes from Brazil. So even our fasting food is coming from Brazil. So what pure culture are you talking about? Nirpanas, in Kerala it's called kadal chakka, chakka which came from the sea. So this is from Brazil. Ananas is from Brazil. Sitafa, Ramford is rechristening the names. Original name is Ater, and in Goa we still call it Ater. And this again comes from South America. Avocado comes from there. And most interestingly, when the Portuguese colonized Brazil, they first took European cows there. And the European cows would not survive there because the temperature, the climate was different. So what do? They decided to take cows from Goa and from the rest of the country. And these cows survived. And this Krishna Kumar Singh Ji Maharaj of Bhavnagar, a Gujarat prince, king, donated a lot of cows and bulls to Brazil. And there's a sculpture of this Maharaja in the square in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. That's because he donated cows. And even today, the germ spasm of bulls goes from Gujarat to South America. And this is Ogle cattle from Andhra Pradesh. This is Katresh cattle. And cows in South America, Brazil, Argentina, Peru have a very interesting name. They are called Aryan cows or Brahmin cows. And they are the biggest producers of beef in the world. So non-resident Indian cows are allowed to be slaughtered. The bread, of course, the story you have heard, so I will not repeat it. Goa is from South America. And the Bengali sweets, we love them and they're very popular, but you will be surprised that the Portuguese controlled Bengal for a long time. But this was not directly under the king of Portugal. There were private enterprises who were controlling Hooghly, and they were taught how to make chana, breaking the milk. Breaking the milk was not very Indian. So breaking the milk was taught to them by the Portuguese. And so the Bengali sweets owe a lot to the Portuguese. And not just sweets. There are a lot of Portuguese words in Bengali language. For example, in Goa, we call the window janel. And in Bengali, it's also janel. And it's a Portuguese word. So these are the sweet pirates, they were called, because they taught how to make sweets. The chai, of course, the British popularized it, chai. But then the first chai, which was taken to Buckingham Palace by a Portuguese princess. The Portuguese got, there was a marriage of Catherine of Braganza to Prince Charles in 1661. As a dowry was given as Bombay, the island of Bombay, island of Tangiers in Morocco, 2 lakhs of 2 lakh pounds and a chest of tea. And that is the first time that tea traveled to Buckingham Palace. Before that, in the afternoon, they would have gin. And then the tea came, and the tea became a habit with the British people. And on the chest, I do not know the authenticity of this, but this is what I've discovered in some literature. It was written Transporte e Aromaticas, TEA. So all of us, we call chai chai. Cyanide is chai, but in English, it is tea. And perhaps it is because of this label. Well, I am not very sure about it, but it's an interesting thing. Badam, halwa. Halwa is very Iranian. Jalebi is again Persian. So it's not from here. And this has become our food for celebration. Samosa, the idea is from Central Asia and Arabia. But the content of potatoes is from Brazil. So again, this is a multinational food. Biryani, what we love, basically from Arabia came pulao. And we added our spices to it, and biryani is born. So biryani is a child of Indian spices and the Arabian pulao. Shirmal is Arabian. And then we in Goa eat something which is very interesting, and it is called bun. The bun is sort of something which is influenced by this shirmal. Naan is, of course, from Central Asia. And hing, asafoida, which all of us consume. The vegetarians love asafoida as a tadka for the vegetables. It is still coming from Afghanistan. We do not produce hing in India. So the tadka is very much an Afghan tadka for all our pure vegetarian food. The Goan House, I will talk briefly about the Goan House. We already mentioned that the Goan House is a language of architecture which developed here. It is not, I have been all over Portugal, but there is no house like this house in Portugal. Of course, there are some elements which came from Portugal, but it is essentially a new language of architecture which developed here. And how did it develop? When the Portuguese came, they came with drawings for churches because they wanted to sort of erect large churches. So the drawings were brought. And so the local masons read the drawings and adapted them to suit the local climate and the local material. So old Goa became a laboratory of architecture, and the same masons then constructed these houses. And they were constructed for a very interesting reason. All the houses are after 1775. And why? That's because there was Marcos de Pombal, who became the Prime Minister of Portugal in 1775. And he issued a decree which is unheard of in the history of colonial rule. He said every citizen of Portugal in every country, irrespective of race, religion, caste, will be an equal citizen of Portugal. Now that gave a very interesting impetus to the neo-Christians who started translating that freedom into making houses, and a great language of architecture developed. And later on, when the zeal of the Portuguese to demolish temples was gone, the temples were allowed to be constructed. Not just allowed to be constructed, the Mangeshi temple was put on the currency of Goa. And if you see the Mangeshi temple, and if you see I'll just come there. The descendant of the same masons who constructed the churches constructed the temples. So Goa's temples have also an architecture which is very much influenced by the Portuguese. It's a European architectural language. And if you see the dome of the St. Cajetan Church, and if you see the dome of the Mangeshi temple, they're precisely the same. Well, this is very interesting. You'll be surprised that I had once enjoyed beer for quite some time with Gregory Peck and Roger Moore. You will say, well, how did I enjoy beer with Gregory Peck and Roger Moore? This was in 1980. A movie called Sea Wolves was shot in Goa. This Sea Wolves has a very interesting story. In 1942, the Special Operation Executive in Meerut, the British executive, he intercepted a coded message which originated in Goa from a ship. And this coded message was sent to the German U-boats for telling them the position of the Allied ships in the Indian Ocean. And a lot of ships were sunk by the U-boats, and so they decided to get rid of this somebody who was sending these messages. So there was a gentleman called Koch, Robert Koch, and Greta. They were spies, the German Gestapo spies based in Goa. Commandos were sent here secretly because Portugal had a friendly relationship with England, so they could not openly come. So they came secretly, kidnapped this couple who were the spies. And then there is in Calcutta, there is the retired British Army officers. They were requested to go and get rid of this ship. So they came in a barge from Calcutta and they sank this ship in 1943. This was a mission with ex-army officers from Calcutta. There's a place called Light Horse, Calcutta Light Horse. They came here and sank it. And based on this story, a movie was made which is called Sea Wolves, with Gregory Peck and Roger Moore. And they didn't have enough hotels in Panjim to stay. So a hotel was built for them, and this hotel was Fidalgo. Specially built for them because there was only Mandavi Hotel. There was no other hotel in 1980 suitable for the film crew. So a new hotel was built, and they came and they shot the movie. And the only shack at that time on this beach was Martin's Beach Corner. And they used to go there in the evening and enjoy their beer there. And I was a second MBBS, a third MBBS student. I would also go there for my beer. And then we had beer together. And one of the friends of ours, he recited Geet Ramayan to Gregory Peck. Because we told him that you might get a break in Hollywood. And he believed in us. And well, this was the activities you do as a student.
विकसित भारत 2047 एक ध्येय एक सपन गोयचो फुडार बळकट करपाचो भारत देश विकसित करपाचो तुई भी ह्या मोहिमेन वांटेकार जा गोयचो विकास घडोवपाक तुई आपले योगदान दी आपल्यो आयडियाज वा सजेशन्स दिवपाक गोवा ऑनलायन पोर्टलाचेर वचून विजन डॉक्युमेंट तयार करपाक तुझे मोलादीक योगदान दी विकसित भारत 2047